Hello everyone! My name is Justin from the Tin and Max channel. That's just Space Tin. Welcome to the very first episode of Comics for Casuals. The show that will hopefully help people find comics they will love. Or, at least like. I'll take a like. The basic concept for the show is to help newcomers to comic books and comic book reading find a place to start. Comics can be really confusing if you don't know where to start or what's going on. After all, some of these characters have been around for 80 plus years and have a fictional history to match. There are hundreds of story arcs and millions of characters across all of comics, so finding a place to begin can be difficult. Trust me, I went through the same thing when I was 16. Growing up, I was a massive Batman fan. Some people might even say I was obsessed, but honestly, I don't see it. I just happened to talk about Batman so much as a child that my sister's first word was quite literally Batman. Sorry about that, Jordan. Anyway, my point is I loved Batman. I watched all the shows and the movies, but I never read the comics. In my defense, the Batman solo series that started its run in 1940 and ran until 2011 had 713 issues. And Detective Comics, which Batman first premiered in and then became the face of, ran for 881 issues. And those are just two of the different books that Batman has been a part of. So naturally, finding a comic to read that wasn't, weighed down by years and years and years of continuity can be a little hard. But luckily for me, I stumbled upon the New 52. Now, what exactly is the New 52? It's a little complicated, but I'm glad you asked. I mean, you probably didn't actually ask, but I'm just going to pretend you did. The New 52 is basically a relaunch of the entire DC universe and comic line, meaning that all the numbering for the book started at number 1 again, and all the continuity for the characters had been completely reset. Kind of. Wasn't complete. Real quick side note, because according to my wife, the definition of continuity isn't as commonly known as I thought. In the context of comics, continuity is the idea of characters and stories all existing along the same timeline and in the same universe. A perfect example of a specific continuity is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All those movies are individual stories with different characters, but they all connect to each other and exist within the same fictional space. Okay, that wasn't as simple as I wanted it to be, but you get the idea. The New 52 was launched in 2011 with the intent of increasing sales for DC Comics by basically opening up the genre to new readers. It reset the universe and created new versions of the characters with less baggage. For the most part. When I learned about this, I went out and I bought the first couple volumes of the solo Batman series by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, and it was fantastic. In fact, I love their Batman series so much that I will probably make several videos just about that. I really enjoyed it, is what I'm getting at. It was really good, and I could just dive right into the series completely. Granted, it did help that I knew a lot about the lore of Batman before I started, but even still, the book does a great job of reintroducing all the elements of Batman. You get a fresh version of the Batman himself and all his supporting characters, and the book does a good job of letting you know who they are and where they fit in the universe. You even get a brand new version of his origin a few volumes in, and it's personally my favorite, but that's just me. If you want to start reading Batman, that's as good a place as any to start. In fact, I even bought the first 3 volumes of it for Max to read as a way to introduce him to comics. So, Now, what does this have to do with what I was talking about earlier? How does this help new readers? Well, the New 52 does what I just described with Batman, but for the whole of the DC universe. Since it's a reset of the continuity, the first books of all the new series, they have to get new readers caught up, and for the most part, it is successful. It made all of the DC characters and the DC universe more accessible than ever. Flash, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Superman, Green Arrow, Shazam, Batwoman, Teen Titans, Suicide Squad, all had their own books that reintroduced their characters and settings and, all the things that make them great. Now, if you're looking for an overall entry point into the New 52 and DC Universe just in general, my suggestion would be Justice League Volume 1 Origins. That basically being because it's the first book in the New 52, and it's also, introduces the main heroes of the universe, which is the Justice League, like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, etc. And it also introduces one of the best villains, if not the best villain of all of DC, Darkseid. Or as I call him, better Thanos. It's a pretty straightforward and self-contained story, which makes it a really good read for new readers. That being said, you can really pick any character or group and just jump right into their series thanks to the New 52. Especially if you like Batman and Batman characters. They had 11 different series out of the total 52 released during the first wave. That's 21%. Okay, that's not as much as I thought, but still, my point stands. The New 52 run on Wonder Woman is fantastic and does a great job of delving deep into her mythological origins, and it looks sensational. The Suicide Squad run is pretty brutal and intense at times. Nightwing is just as great as always. Nightwing is my favorite non-Batman Batman character. And the Teen Titans run, well, it exists. I'll give it that. Now, as much as I've been talking about the New 52, I should mention that it's not without its faults. The biggest issue with the New 52 is the fact that it basically erased a lot of the history for these characters in order to make it new reader accessible, which naturally made a lot of the long-term and old-school fans unhappy. Some say it wasn't even necessary from a storytelling standpoint. In fact, Karina Lawson, who in an article for Wired said, quote, "I give the new DC a big fat failure. That's not because there have not been some great comics, there definitely have been, but those great stories could have happened without rebooting the DC universe and doing away with some of my favorite characters," end quote. Along with that, some of the new versions of the characters didn't vibe with everybody, like the new younger Superman and the unparalyzed Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, who was shot and paralyzed from the waist down by the Joker. But that didn't stop her. She took the mantle of Oracle and became the best technical advisor, computer expert, and information broker in the whole DCU, becoming an iconic character for the disabled community, which, was undone by the New 52, which is kind of a bummer. I like Batgirl, but Oracle's dope too. Plus, the number of female creators dropped from 12% to 1%. What's up with that, DC? Also, this is just personal, but I'm sure a lot of people can relate. They just straight up ruined Starfire. Look at this. Just awful. So yeah, not all good. I guess my overall point is that if you're looking for a way to get into DC Comics, the New 52 is a good place to start. It's not perfect, but it's there. It's accessible in a way that a lot of comics aren't. And technically speaking, the continuity of the New 52 is still going on now, even if the New 52 branding has been dropped. The New 52 ended in 2016 with the introduction of the DC Rebirth, which is a whole other thing that I'll get into some other day. Probably. My point is that, the books have been out for a while, so if you find them used, they're going to be pretty cheap. If you sign up for DC Universe, you can read most of the New 52 catalog for only, I think it's $8, before it gets absorbed into HBO Max. This isn't sponsored, clearly, but I just want to put that out there to help, because that's another thing that can be difficult, is finding where to read comics. If you don't want to do physical ones, digital comics are a great alternative. You can get them from Comixology or the DC app. I think Marvel has an app. I don't have it. So yeah, thanks for sticking this video out. I'm new to this and haven't quite gotten the formula down, but I'm hoping to help people find their way into the crazy world of comic books. I love me some comics, and I know a lot of people around me really like the characters, but like I said, getting into comics, it can be really daunting because there's a lot there. So yeah, if you have anything you want me to cover, or have any ideas to help me make this flow better and be more understandable, then let me know down in the comments below. This chair. I need a new chair. Anyway, subscribe for more content like this in the future. And don't forget to check out Almost Perfect, which is going to be Max's new show. That should be premiering here soon. And we also do gameplay videos. This is a really good outro. I'm nailing this. Anyway, thank you guys, and I will see you in the next video.